At the beginning of the movie, we see a photographer named Jerry. He is traveling by boat when he is greeted on the shore by a research doctor named James Atherton. Their trip into the forest is no coincidence. James is searching for unusual insects and hopes they might discover species no one has ever seen before. They continue their journey into the jungle by helicopter, guided by a young man from a local indigenous tribe. As they approach their destination, the guide grows uneasy. He points them in the right direction but refuses to go any farther, clearly afraid. The rest of the group moves on. At one point, Jerry accidentally falls into a web of spiders. Though they are small, there are many of them, and he shouts in alarm. His companions rush to calm him down. Shortly after, Jerry photographs a large web he finds. Meanwhile, the scientists have brought a special device that emits smoke. James activates it, saying, "Now you'll see." The smoke rises into the air, and soon countless insects begin falling from above. There are butterflies, and among them, deadly spiders like the so-called Black Widow. However, all of them are still alive. As Jerry begins taking photos, he notices one spider moving and instinctively crushes it. James immediately scolds him, warning that it might have been an undiscovered species. The team then starts collecting the insects in jars, but one spider remains unaffected by the smoke. It descends silently through the trees and leaps onto the equipment they are carrying. It turns out to be a massive queen spider. Later, James continues studying the spiders while Jerry stands nearby, feeling dizzy. James suggests that he go rest. Jerry agrees, returns to his room, takes some medicine, and lies down under a blanket. And noticed, the large spider crawls under the covers with him. When Jerry senses something and pulls back the blanket, the spider bites him. Almost instantly, he goes into agony and dies. Some time later, a colleague tries to wake Jerry but realizes he is dead. James confirms it. They place Jerry's body in a coffin and decide to send him back to his hometown. However, the giant spider sneaks into the coffin with the body. After a long journey across oceans and rough terrain, the coffin finally arrives in a village called Kanema. The body is transferred to a cart and taken into the morgue, where a medical worker named Kendall receives it. She is shocked by the condition of the corpse and immediately calls a man named Zeke. He explains that they had planned an open casket funeral, but the body is in no condition for that. At that moment, the spider slowly emerges from inside the coffin. It has drained all the blood from the body. It escapes and heads outside, where it encounters a dog and a cat. Both animals are terrified and run away. As the spider moves further, a bird grabs it, but soon drops it. The spider kills the bird as well. Nearby, the Jennings family is moving into a house. Their son is playing American football, tossing the ball around when it lands right next to the spider. Fortunately, the creature stays hidden and does not attack. The boy notices a dead bird and tells his father, Ross, that he saw a giant spider. Ross, who is just as afraid of spiders, reacts nervously and suggests showing it to his wife. Molly, Ross's wife, comes out to see. The boy keeps talking about the spider, but it turns out a smaller spider is hiding inside the ball. Molly laughs it off, saying that spiders are more afraid of humans and even feels sorry for it. However, this is no ordinary spider. The large black one has already entered their barn. Later, the family goes into the barn, and Molly unknowingly releases the small spider there. That night, the small spider and the giant queen finally meet. The next day, Ross goes to his job in the village as a doctor. However, an older local physician named Sam refuses to give up his position and dismisses Ross's modern medical methods. After work, Ross is given a parking ticket by the local sheriff for improperly parking his car, even though he insists he was only there briefly. At that moment, an influential older woman named Margaret Hollins arrives and tears up the ticket. She supports Ross because she plans to become his patient and continues to help him. Meanwhile, Molly, who is also somewhat of a photographer, takes her camera and begins photographing the barn. There, she discovers a massive web and is astonished by it. Molly assumes that the web was made by that small spider. She tells Ross about it, saying she saw something incredible inside the barn and urges him to take a look. But Ross is terribly afraid of spiders. Eventually, Molly convinces him. Nervous and hesitant, Ross climbs up the ladder in the barn to inspect the web. Suddenly, A piece of wood breaks, and the dead body of a squirrel falls onto his face. Startled, Ross screams and falls to the ground. Both of them rush outside in fear. At that moment, we are shown numerous eggs. From them, tiny spider hatchlings born from the combination of two different species begin to emerge and scatter. Soon after, a small celebration takes place in the village. Many guests gather, including Ross and Molly. Meanwhile, the little spiders spread out in all directions. During the gathering, Kendall, the doctor, shares what she witnessed earlier: Jerry's body. She says she has never seen anything like it, as if all the blood had been drained, like by a vampire. The host of the event is Margaret Hollins. Later that night, after the guests leave, Margaret decides to rest. At that moment, she is bitten by one of the spiders. The next day, Ross visits Margaret's house as part of his routine checkups and finds her dead. Soon, the police and the elderly Dr. Sam arrive. They conclude it was a heart attack. However, Ross strongly disagrees, insisting that she had been in good health. Despite this, suspicion falls on Ross, since Margaret had recently started seeing him as her doctor. Margaret is then buried. Meanwhile, Ross notices parts of his house seem damaged and assumes it might be termites. He calls an exterminator named Delbert McClintock, who specializes in dealing with insects. After thoroughly inspecting the house, Delbert says there are no termites, it must be something else. Later, a group of young people gather to play American football. One of the small spiders appears there as well and crawls into a player's helmet. The boy puts it on and runs onto the field. At the moment he is tackled, the spider bites him. He collapses. Everyone assumes it was just from the hit, but he dies shortly after. Another funeral follows. During this time, the old Dr. Sam continues to mock Ross, saying that all of Ross's patients are dying. Even Ross's children become uneasy and saddened by the situation. That night, Sam is at home exercising and preparing to go to bed. A spider crawls into his shoe. When he puts it on, the spider bites him. Realizing something is wrong, he notices the spider scurrying away, but it's too late. He dies as well. His wife screams for help. Ross and an investigator named Milton arrive. Ross explains that before dying, Sam's wife said he had been bitten by a spider. Milton is skeptical, but Ross shows him the bite mark on Sam's foot. Ross then requests permission to conduct an investigation, which would require exhuming the previously buried bodies to determine the true cause of death. As time passes, the queen spider begins laying eggs beneath Ross's house, building a nest in the basement. After finally receiving permission, Ross calls the renowned scientist James Atherton. He explains that several people have died and that they suspect spider bites. He asks James to come and investigate. When James hears the name of the village Kanema, he pauses, recognizing it. He then sends his assistant, Chris, to the village. Chris examines the bodies and confirms that all of them bear spider bite marks. Ross presents the evidence clearly. Convinced, Chris calls James and urges him to come immediately, saying there is a serious problem: multiple deaths caused by spiders. James agrees but asks them to prepare a live specimen. Later, Ross, Chris, the sheriff, and the investigator gather at the sheriff's office to continue their examination. Suddenly, the sheriff shouts they discover a dead spider preserved in a container. They are puzzled about what could have killed it. In another household, spiders begin appearing, terrifying the family. The group goes there to investigate. At one point, Ross and Chris spot a spider and carefully manage to trap it in a glass. The frightened family calls Delbert McClintock again. He arrives and begins inspecting the house thoroughly, but the spiders had already hidden. When they step outside, they encounter one. Delbert sprays it with poison, but it doesn't die, so he crushes it under his foot. A little later, James Atherton arrives at Ross's workplace. Ross explains that a few months ago, a coffin had been brought to the village with a completely drained body inside. That means the spider must have been large. He then realizes how James knows about this place. It's the village of Jerry Manley. The spiders must have arrived with his coffin. James begins studying the captured spider. His conclusion shocks everyone. This is an entirely new species, the result of two different spiders combining. Its venom is extremely powerful. To test it, he injects the venom into a lab mouse and it dies instantly. They realize these spiders behave like soldiers, and somewhere there must be a general, the queen, hiding in its nest. At that moment, Delbert arrives and says he also encountered a spider and crushed it. James suggests they go to the morgue. Meanwhile, we see that the old morgue worker and his wife are also attacked and killed by spiders. Before heading there, James notices the photographs taken by Molly and asks where they were shot. The sheriff replies, "In the old barn." James immediately decides they must go there. Meanwhile, Ross, Chris, and Delbert go to the morgue and discover more bodies. Chris studies the pattern of deaths on a map and realizes something. The attacks are spreading house by house and the center point is Ross's home. Alarmed, Ross rushes back with them. At the same time, James is already in the barn, examining the webs. He clearly senses something is there. As he touches one of the webs, a giant spider suddenly lunges at him. Ross and Chris enter the house, while Delbert goes into the barn. There, he discovers James's dead body covered in spiders. Inside the house, Ross's family is calmly watching TV until small spiders begin crawling out everywhere. Ross quietly tells them to stand up slowly. As they try to escape, spiders swarm all over the place. They manage to climb up and escape through the attic, but Ross is left behind. Outside, Delbert arrives and starts killing spiders with his chemical sprayer. Inside, Ross searches for another way out but suddenly falls through the floor into the basement. There, he discovers a massive nest filled with eggs. As he panics, a spider crawls onto his hand. Terrified, Ross strikes it with a shovel, but it clings to it and tries to attack him. He throws it onto an exposed electric wire, electrocuting it. Looking around, Ross finds countless eggs. He breaks bottles of wine and pours them over the nest. Suddenly, the general of the giant queen spider attacks him. Ross falls, and a shelf full of bottles collapses on top of him. The spider slowly descends toward him on its web. Ross fights back, smashing bottles at it, then grabs a torch and sets it on fire. The spider retreats but then hides. As Ross searches for it, it suddenly leaps onto him, clinging to his shirt. He throws it off but falls to the ground. Unable to stand, the spider slowly approaches through the flames. At the last moment, Ross uses a stick to throw it into the fire. Even while burning, the creature tries to attack him again. Finally, Ross grabs a small nail gun like a mini crossbow and shoots it, pinning it to its nest. Just then, Delbert arrives to help. Using his equipment, he destroys all the remaining eggs. Sometime later, Ross and Molly are peacefully relaxing at home, celebrating their survival. But suddenly, their house begins to shake. And that's how the movie ends.